There are many situations, where one has to be adaptable, flexible. So let's take a look at the kind of things that you can do, with respect to adapting your pricing. There are various methods. For example, people use geographical pricing of various types. You have things like free on board, factory related pricing, or like Bata, you have something like postage stamp pricing, 99.99, 599.99, the same delivered price irrespective of the destination. Some people follow, say, zone pricing. That is for, especially if you look at, fairly large volume commodities, or somebody like Parle has divided the country into several zones, and within each zone they have a range within which the price of each product is determined. And then you have a basing point pricing. This used to be particularly, common in the US in the steel market, where they had a certain base point for, within a certain region, and that base point had a price, and then other regions, other places had a different price based on what they call this basing point. So there are several things that you can do based on geography, and it's certain commodities, especially if you look at steel, cement, etc., etc. You might also have the added complication of some government regulations or administered prices over and above the geographical considerations. You also have issues where you might do promotional pricing for various reasons. We have seen in, or we will see in discussions on promotions and all that, how that plays an important role. Now sometimes people might have a principle of a loss leader. For example, I might have a range of, say, computer printers, but I might have my lowest level printer selling at a loss, which means I am pricing it lower than the cost it takes for me to produce and distribute it. So there is a special reason for me to do it. I want to hammer the competition. I also want to make customers try me out, maybe look at me and then figure out, maybe I might go in for the higher model. It at least gets the person looking at you. That's what your intent might be. Sometimes you might have a special event. There are companies who might say, this is my 20th year, or this is my 50th year, or it is Diwali pricing, all kinds of things. In some cases, you have different pricing if you pay in cash. If you look at consumer durables, sometimes you get a better rate if you pay fully in cash upfront rather than pay over installments. You might see the same thing happening in homes as well, in housing particularly. Or in some cases, for example, in two-wheelers, you find a lot of manufacturers seem to offer low interest financing. You find this quite a bit in the vehicle side. You also find it now even sometimes in certain kinds of holiday packages. Or you get extended credit. Instead of 1 month, you might get it for 2 or 3 months. That actually is a kind of a cost for the company, and it kind of lowers the price for the customer. You might have sometimes free warranties, free servicing for 1 year. You have cars today, car companies today offering you free service for 3 years. All this is in some way reducing the price, because these things otherwise used to cost money. Or sometimes there can be psychological discounting. People have been, it's like that 4-minute barrier for the mile. When the mile was first run in under 4 minutes, it was a psychological barrier. Similarly, certain products have always been sold at a certain range, and suppose you lower that range, it becomes a psychological barrier that is overcome for the customer. It's also something that the competition needs to counter. So that's another set of considerations, promotional based. There can also be discriminatory pricing, which means you discriminate in some fashion or the other. Sometimes it can be on the basis of customer segments. For example, rice might be sold, not a very similar kind of rice may be sold to one kind of customer in one area at one price. It may be sold at a higher price to some other customer in a slightly more upmarket area. Or it could be product form based. A good example would be that of shampoos. The sachet shampoos, typically, if you look at it by volume, have been sold at a much lower volume rate as opposed to the sale of the same shampoo in bottles. Yes, there could be some element of excise duty, etc., but a lot of it is also because of the product form in which it is based. You find liquid soaps, solid soaps, more or less having the same kind of material, only the form changes, and the pricing could be considerably different. Sometimes people think that their products or brands enjoy a superior image and therefore command some kind of premium. So you can have some kind of image based pricing, whereas certain other products may enjoy a lower image, and may actually have a lower pricing. Sometimes you have different prices based on the channels that you use. Sometimes you have exclusive channels who are selling the same product considerably at a much higher price than say some online or group buying channels. Sometimes you have certain products which are sold on the basis of time. You find, for example, if you were to buy certain perishable fruits, the price in the morning could be much higher than the price say later on in the day at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock when the vendor is wanting to go home. So this is another kind of mechanism that you can use to apply how you price your products. In many cases, people also use the element of product mix. For example, I might have a product line. If you take say a large company in paints like Asian Paints, they may have a line of enamels, and they may have the first quality enamel priced at 100, maybe the second quality priced at say 80, and the third quality maybe at 60, because they want to attract different kinds of market segments. The quality may vary a bit, but the pricing can vary considerably, or the other way around. Or sometimes, like in the case of many electronic products or phones or music related products, you find features being added. If you buy the iPod, you get the basic iPod for one price. If you want the dock, you have to pay extra. You want certain kinds of speakers, you pay extra. This is because you want to give the customers a choice. So you want to give them as optional features. You see the same thing happening in cars. There are 3-4 models. The luxury model, the basic model, the middle line model, etc. Many other forms are there. They could have sometimes that I have a bundle. You buy this, you also get this free. So you will find many consumer product companies seem to bundle fairly similar products, sometimes even not so similar products. You might get, for example, a packet of Kurkure free, small packet, along with a bag of chips of Lay's. Suppose Kurkure is a new product and you want to have customers try it out, you might give a little sample pack free along with a larger packet of Lay's which already has some customer acceptance. So you have different mechanisms based on product mix pricing as well.